Ethan's gonna be there, right?
Of course. He wouldn't miss it.
Couple. People said so all the time, at least that's what they told me when I passed by. Maybe it was true. Maybe I was living the dream. I never questioned it. Not until now. The crisp autumn air hit me like a slap in the face as I stepped out of the house that morning, a subtle reminder that everything was about to change. The leaves were starting to turn, painting the streets with shades of orange and red. Everything looked perfect just like I always wanted. Jake, you ready for the big night? Lily called from the kitchen, her voice sweet and full of energy. She was busy making breakfast, humming along to some song on the radio, and I couldn't help but smile at the sight of her. She looked like the woman every man dreamed of. But, as always, I never thought too much about it. Yeah, I'm good, I replied, my words slipping out almost automatically. We had a family gathering that night, a charity event, and I was supposed to perform with Lily. We did this every year, and I couldn't deny that it was always fun, despite how cliché it might have been. I liked the idea of us doing something together, putting on a show for the family. I grabbed a mug from the counter and filled it with coffee, sipping it as I glanced at the calendar. There was something strange about today, though, something I couldn't place. Maybe it was just nerves. Ethan's going to be there, right? Lily asked, her voice cutting through my thoughts. I looked up at her, the smile on my face faltering for just a second. Of course. He wouldn't miss it. Ethan, my brother. He was always the guy everyone could count on, the one who had a way of making everything look easy. But underneath it all, I knew him better than anyone else. He always had his own agenda, always looking for ways to one-up me, even if it was just in the smallest of ways. Lily, on the other hand, was perfect. At least she appeared to be. Her beauty, her charm, everything about her made people fall in love at first sight. And I was no exception. I was lucky, I knew that. But there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a whisper I couldn't quite shut out. So, what's the plan tonight? What are we doing for the performance? I asked, trying to shake off the unease crawling up my spine. Lily's smile was effortless, and for a moment, I wondered if I had made everything up in my head. She reached out and touched my arm gently, a gesture that should have comforted me, but instead made my stomach tighten. We'll have fun like always. Let's just enjoy the night, okay? Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, and I nodded. Yeah, of course. But something wasn't right. The more I looked at her, the more I saw the cracks I had ignored for so long. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I thought was real was just an illusion. The day moved on, the hours slipping by as I tried to prepare for the evening. But, no matter how much I tried to distract myself, my mind kept drifting back to the same question. What was really going on? The night came faster than I expected. The family was already at the event when we arrived, their laughter and chatter filling the air. As I entered the ballroom, I scanned the room for Ethan. I saw him almost immediately, standing near the drinks table talking to some of our relatives. He looked the same as always, charming, confident, like everything was in its place. But then I saw Lily. She was standing next to Ethan, laughing at something he had said. The way her eyes sparkled, the way her hand brushed his arm, it was so natural. Too natural. I felt my stomach drop. It was subtle at first, just a glance, a moment that could have been dismissed as nothing. But something about it triggered a reaction inside me. Jake, you okay? Lily's voice came from beside me, snapping me out of my thoughts. I turned to her, forcing a smile. Yeah, just tired. She tilted her head slightly, her expression softening with concern. Are you sure? You're looking a little off. I swallowed hard, trying to shake off the unease building in my chest. I'm fine. Really? She nodded, but the concern didn't leave her eyes. The evening went on, but my focus drifted between Ethan and Lily. They laughed, they joked, they smiled like they shared something that I wasn't a part of. And the more I watched them, the more the nagging feeling grew. Something wasn't right. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Jake. My mother's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Are you okay? You seem distant. I gave her a quick smile, trying to mask the growing unease. Yeah, just tired. I'll be fine. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing control of everything I had worked so hard to build. The evening ended and we left the event, Lily and I driving home in silence. What's wrong? She finally asked, glancing at me as we pulled into the driveway. You've been quiet all night. I forced a smile. I'm just thinking about the performance. That's all. But as I stepped out of the car, I knew deep down that the cracks had started to show. And no matter how much I tried to convince myself everything was fine, I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Something was off. And I was going to find out what it was. The family gathering was in full swing by the time Lily and I arrived. It was one of those nights where everything seemed too perfect, like something out of a movie. The decorations were flawless, the laughter in the air felt natural, and there was this warm, golden glow from the autumn lights that bathed the entire yard in a soft haze. People were mingling, drinks in hand, and the world felt like it was in its right place. At least that's how I wanted to see it. "Jake, stop worrying," Lily said, nudging me as we stepped into the crowd. She smiled that perfect smile of hers, the one that had everyone in the room thinking she was the sweetest thing on earth. I forced a smile back, though something felt off, like a small crack in the foundation of my perfect life. Maybe it was the way I'd been feeling all day, uneasy, restless. "We're just here to have fun," she added, holding my arm tightly as we walked toward the group. "I know," I muttered, but I wasn't so sure. Something was wrong. I just couldn't put my finger on it yet. Ethan was already there, of course. He always showed up early, always the first to start the conversations and make sure everyone was entertained. He was always so confident, so naturally charismatic. I couldn't help but notice how well he fit in with everyone else, like he was the glue that kept it all together. As we approached the group, I saw Lily laughing at something Ethan had said. It wasn't a loud laugh, just that soft, playful giggle of hers. The one that was always reserved for the moments when she was the most comfortable, when she didn't have to try. I stopped for a moment. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just overthinking. But something in the way she looked at him, something in the way Ethan smiled at her. No, that wasn't right. It didn't sit well with me. "Jake." Lily's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. She was looking at me with that concerned expression she always had when I got lost in my head. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." I forced a smile. Just a lot going on in my head." She nodded, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. I hated that I couldn't convince her. But more than that, I hated that I couldn't convince myself. We joined the others by the fire pit, the glow of the flames mixing with the soft light from the autumn lanterns. It was supposed to be a good time, a simple gathering with family. But something kept nagging at me. Every time I looked at Ethan and Lily together, it felt like a punch to my gut. That's when it happened. Lily and Ethan were standing close, just like before, talking and laughing. Then, without warning, they moved closer to each other. And before I could process it, they kissed. Right there. Under the autumn lights. In front of everyone. It was brief, almost too quick to be noticed by anyone else, but I saw it clearly. I froze. It wasn't just a kiss on the cheek. It wasn't part of the show. It was a kiss that said more than words could. A kiss that made my heart stop in my chest. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My brain tried to make sense of what I saw, but it couldn't. I kept replaying the scene over and over in my head, looking for any excuse, any explanation. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I had misunderstood. But deep down I knew what I saw. I wanted to shout, to confront them right there, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just stood there, my stomach churning. I wanted to leave, wanted to run far away from the mess I was trapped in. Lily turned to me, unaware of what had just happened between her and my brother. Her smile was the same one she always wore when she was trying to reassure me, to make everything feel normal. "Everything all right?" she asked again, her voice light and sweet. But it wasn't sweet anymore. Not to me. It was like a lie. A thin layer of happiness covering something much darker. I nodded, but I couldn't look her in the eye. Instead, I stared at the ground, at the flickering flames of the fire pit that seemed to reflect the fire burning inside me. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think the worst, but it was impossible not to. I felt humiliated. Not because of the kiss itself, but because of how easily they had lied to me. How easily they'd pulled it off right under my nose. And how much I had trusted them. "Jake," Lily said, this time with more concern, taking my hand gently. "I'm fine," I muttered, pulling my hand away from hers before she could say anything else. I couldn't do this. I couldn't pretend everything was okay when everything had just crumbled in front of me. I excused myself, telling Lily I needed a moment to clear my head. I needed to be alone, to figure out what to do with this sudden storm that had just shattered my world. The night went on without me. I sat on the edge of the porch, my thoughts a whirlwind of confusion, hurt, and anger. But mostly I was just lost. Lost in a world where everything I thought I knew was a lie. And I didn't know what to do about it. I couldn't shake the image. Every time I closed my eyes, it played over and over again, Lily and Ethan kissing under the autumn lights. At first I thought maybe I had imagined it. But deep down I knew it wasn't a mistake. I couldn't stop seeing it. I couldn't let it go. I spent the entire night in my head replaying the scene in a loop. Every time I saw them laugh, I thought of that kiss. Every time Lily touched my arm, I thought of her touching Ethan. I tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid, but the truth had already wormed its way into my mind and I couldn't get rid of it. By the time morning came, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I had to confront her. I had to know the truth. I waited until she was in the kitchen, humming to herself like everything was fine. I could hear the clink of dishes, the rustle of her moving around, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. "Lily," I said, my voice tight with the weight of everything I'd been holding in. She turned to me, smiling, her eyes bright and full of life. But I saw it now. The way she looked at me was different, like she was hiding something. "Hey babe, what's wrong? You look tense." I took a deep breath. "We need to talk." She stopped in her tracks, her smile faltering. "Okay, what's going on? You're freaking me out." I stood there, my heart racing in my chest. "Last night, at the party, you kissed Ethan." Her eyes widened, but only for a second. Then she tried to laugh it off like it was nothing. "What? No, I didn't. You must have been seeing things. It wasn't like that at all." The words stung, but I wasn't going to let her talk her way out of it. "Don't lie to me. I saw it, Lily. I saw you kiss him." She shook her head quickly, stepping toward me, her hands raised like she was trying to calm me down. "Jake, please. It wasn't what you think. I swear to you. It was nothing. You're overreacting." I could feel my chest tighten as my heart shattered. "Don't tell me I'm overreacting. I saw it, Lily. You kissed him. You kissed my brother. How can you look me in the eye and say it's nothing?" Her face went pale, and for the first time I saw a crack in her composure. "Jake, I don't know what to say. It was a mistake. Just a stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything." "A mistake?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're telling me that kissing my brother in front of everyone was a mistake? That's your excuse?" She opened her mouth to say something, but I couldn't listen anymore. I didn't want to hear her try to justify it. "Why, Lily? Why would you do this?" My voice cracked, the pain cutting through me like a knife. "What the hell is going on?" She bit her lip, her eyes avoiding mine. She wasn't looking at me. She wasn't even seeing me anymore. "I never meant for you to find out like this," she whispered, almost to herself. "I thought I could keep it hidden. I didn't want to hurt you, Jake." "Then why did you do it?" I demanded. "Why kiss him? Why cheat on me?" Her voice was small now, defeated. I don't know. Just happened. I've been feeling so distant lately, and Ethan, he was there. I don't expect you to understand. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I swear, I never meant for it to happen like this." I couldn't even look at her. The woman I thought I knew, the one I trusted more than anyone, had just destroyed everything we had. "You didn't mean for it to happen?" I repeated, the bitterness in my voice unbearable. "You didn't mean to kiss my brother? You didn't mean to destroy everything we've built together?" She didn't answer. I turned away from her, pacing the kitchen floor. I needed air. I needed to get out. But before I could leave, I heard the door slam open. "Jake, wait." It was Ethan. I froze, my entire body going rigid. He stepped inside, looking sheepish like he was about to say something important. But I knew. I already knew. "You don't have to do this, man," Ethan said, his voice low. "We didn't mean for it to go this far, but I whirled around to face him, my fists clenching. Don't even try to justify this. You kissed my wife. You've been hiding it from me, pretending like everything's fine. You think this is just something that happened? You think I'm supposed to just let it go?" Ethan looked at me, his face clouded with guilt. "Jake, I know I messed up. I didn't want to hurt you. You're my brother, and I should have been there for you." "No," I cut him off, my voice shaking with fury. "You should have stayed away. You should have stayed the hell away from her. You've destroyed everything." Ethan looked down, his expression full of regret. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean for it to happen. I don't know. I don't know what happened." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't know what happened? You're my brother, Ethan. How could you do this to me? To both of us?" He looked at me, his eyes pained. "I never meant to hurt you, Jake. I swear it was a mistake." "A mistake." I repeated the word again, the weight of it sinking deep into my chest. "You both made a mistake, but I'm the one who has to deal with the fallout." The silence between us was unbearable, the tension thick. I didn't want to hear his excuses anymore. I didn't want to hear him or Lily. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't breathe. Every time I woke up, it was like the weight of the world settled on my chest all over again. I couldn't escape the image, the sound of Ethan's voice and Lily's false reassurances. The truth, it lingered, choking me slowly. I wasn't even sure if I was alive anymore or just existing. Days passed in a haze. I went through the motions but nothing felt real. I went to work. I came home. I barely ate, barely slept. And all the while, that feeling, that sickening feeling, never left. It was a Sunday when Sarah finally showed up at my door. I hadn't heard from her in a few days. I'd been avoiding everyone, including her. But she was persistent and she knew exactly how to get past the walls I'd built. "Jake, let me in. We need to talk," she said, her voice soft but insistent. I didn't even argue. I just stepped back and let her in. She didn't wait for me to say anything, just walked straight to the couch, sat down, and looked at me with concern in her eyes. "Jake, you've been a ghost the past few days. What's going on?" I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to admit what I was feeling, but the way she looked at me, like she knew everything, made it impossible to hide. So I just said it. "Ethan. Lily, they betrayed me." Her face softened and I could see the hurt in her eyes, not just for me but for herself too. She'd always known how much I loved Lily, how much I trusted Ethan. To see me like this, it had to be killing her. "I know," Sarah said quietly. "I know. But you need to talk about it. I'm here for you, Jake. Whatever you need." I shook my head. What's the point? What's the point of talking about it when everything I thought was real is just gone? They've taken everything from me, Sarah. Everything. She moved closer, her voice firm but gentle. "You're not alone in this. I know you don't want to hear it, but you need to grieve, Jake. You're holding it all in and it's eating you alive." I couldn't break down in front of her. I couldn't show her how weak I was, how shattered I was. I tried to push back, but the walls I'd built were already crumbling. "I don't know what to do, Sarah," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I keep thinking about revenge, about making them pay for what they've done. But I can't. I can't make myself do it. Feels wrong. I feel like a coward." Sarah's hand was on mine before I could even realize it. She squeezed it gently. "You're not a coward, Jake. Wanting revenge doesn't make you strong. It just keeps you chained to the past. And you're better than that." I pulled my hand away, but not because I didn't appreciate her comfort. I pulled it away because I didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't deserve anyone's sympathy, especially not hers. I don't know how to let go of this. Every part of me wants to make them feel what I feel, but I'm just stuck. I don't even know who I am anymore. Sarah didn't say anything for a moment. She let the silence hang between us, heavy and thick. Then finally she spoke again. "Jake, you've always been the strong one. You've always been the one everyone goes to. But you don't have to carry this alone. You don't have to figure everything out right now. Just let yourself breathe. One step at a time. You've got to stop punishing yourself." I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her that she didn't understand, that this wasn't something that could just be fixed with a few comforting words. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at my hands, feeling more broken than I'd ever felt in my life. I wanted to punch something, to feel something other than the numbness that was consuming me. I wanted to fight back, to hurt them the way they'd hurt me. But that's where the guilt crept in. Was I doing this for me? Or was I doing it because I didn't want to feel weak? I couldn't even tell anymore. "I don't know if I can forgive them," I muttered, my voice strained. "I don't know if I can ever look at them the same way." Sarah sighed, shifting closer to me on the couch. "You don't have to forgive them right away. Hell, you don't have to forgive them at all if you don't want to. But you've got to stop carrying that anger. It's eating you alive, Jake. You're better than this. You don't need them to make you feel whole." The tears I'd been holding back threatened to spill, but I fought them. I wasn't going to let Sarah see me break. Not now, not after everything that had happened. "I'm so lost," I whispered. "I don't know what to do. I just want this pain to go away." Sarah's voice softened, her hand on my shoulder now. "I'm here for you. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You just have to take one step at a time. And I'll be here every step of the way." I closed my eyes, letting her words wash over me. It wasn't a solution. It wasn't the answer I wanted. But it was something. And for now that was enough. The room was silent again, but this time it wasn't suffocating. It was peaceful in its own way. I didn't know how long it would take to heal or even if I could. But for the first time in days I felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe I could breathe again. Maybe I could let myself feel again. But only time would tell. I woke up with a pounding headache. I'd barely slept, and when I did, it was filled with twisted dreams about Ethan and Lily. The memory of their betrayal was still fresh, raw, and burning in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't breathe without it haunting me. It felt like the world was closing in, like the weight of everything I'd built, everything I'd trusted, was crumbling. It was like I was drowning in my own anger, my own confusion, and I couldn't swim to the surface. I walked into the kitchen, the familiar scent of coffee hitting me before I even stepped inside. Sarah was sitting at the table, waiting. Her face was soft, understanding, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She had been my rock since this whole nightmare began. But today something was different. "You okay?" she asked, her voice gentle but laced with concern. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady myself. "I don't know," I admitted. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore, Sarah. I feel like I'm losing myself." She stood up and walked over to me, her hand resting on my shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone, Jake. You don't have to let them destroy you." I let out a shaky breath, my mind racing. I don't know if I can just walk away. Part of me wants to make them pay for what they've done. To make them feel the way I feel. I want revenge. Sarah's hand tightened on my shoulder and she stepped closer. "Revenge won't bring you peace, Jake. It'll just keep you tied to them, to the pain. You have to let go." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to make them understand, to make them regret what they'd done. But there was a voice inside me that kept telling me Sarah was right. And that was the voice I couldn't ignore. "But what if I don't let go?" I muttered. "What if I hold on to this and make them pay?" Sarah's expression softened. "Then you're going to keep carrying it forever. It's not going to bring you closure. It's just going to drag you down. You don't need revenge, Jake. You need to heal." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Heal. Could I even do that? Could I let go of everything that had happened and start over? It felt impossible. I shook my head, my voice low. "I don't know how. I don't even know where to start." Sarah's eyes met mine, her gaze steady and calm. "Start by forgiving yourself." I wanted to laugh at her. Forgive myself. For what? For trusting them? For believing in the lie they had sold me? "I'm not the one who betrayed anyone," I said, my voice cold. "I'm not the one who kissed my brother and lied about it." She sighed and sat back down at the table, folding her arms in front of her. "I know. But you're holding on to something that's eating you up inside. And that's not helping you move forward. You don't have to forgive them. But you do have to forgive yourself." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. How could I forgive myself when I felt so lost, so angry, so betrayed? I opened my mouth to say something, but the words caught in my throat. My phone buzzed on the counter and I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Rachel. "We need to talk. I know you're struggling. I want to help." I stared at it for a few seconds before replying. "I'm not sure there's anything to talk about anymore." I tossed the phone down, running my hands through my hair. Everything felt like it was spinning out of control. How was I supposed to move on from this? How was I supposed to just forgive and forget? "Jake, what are you thinking?" Sarah asked softly, her voice full of worry. I looked at her, my heart heavy with confusion. "I'm thinking that maybe I don't know who I am anymore." She stood up again, walking over to me. "You're still you, Jake. You're just broken right now. And that's okay. You don't have to have all the answers right away." I turned away from her, pacing the room. I don't know what to do, Sarah. Part of me wants to walk away from them, leave them behind and rebuild my life. But another part of me wants to make them regret what they've done. I can't decide. She followed me, her footsteps quiet but steady. "I know it's hard. But you can't let them control your life. If you hold on to this anger, if you hold on to them, they're always going to have power over you. Don't give them that power." I stopped, my back turned to her. My fists were clenched and I could feel the pressure building again. I don't know if I can just let it go. I don't know if I can move on. Sarah was silent for a moment before she spoke again. "You don't have to forgive them right away. You don't have to forget what happened. But you can choose to heal. You can choose to take control of your life again. You can choose yourself." I turned to look at her, my throat tight. And what if that's not enough? What if I can't move on from this? What if revenge is the only thing that will make me feel better? "Revenge isn't going to fix you," she said softly. "You have to fix yourself. And that starts with letting go." I looked at her, feeling like I was on the edge of a cliff, not sure which way to jump. But her words, her steady, calm words, were starting to sink in. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to stop letting this anger control me. Maybe you're right," I whispered. "Maybe it's time to let go." Sarah's face softened and she stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm. "You don't have to do it alone, Jake. I'm here for you." I nodded, feeling a small flicker of hope stir inside me. For the first time in days, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could take the first step toward healing. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen. The blinking cursor mocked me like it knew exactly how much I didn't want to be here. But I had to be. I needed to focus even if it felt like my mind was stuck on repeat, playing the same scenes over and over. Ethan and Lily. Their faces, the kiss, their lies, it was always there just below the surface. I tried to shake it off, but the more I tried, the tighter the grip it had on me. Jake. Rachel's voice broke through the silence and I looked up. She was standing in the doorway, a coffee cup in hand, her eyes full of concern. "You're still here?" "Yeah, I'm just trying to get through some things," I said, forcing a smile. But it felt fake, like I was wearing a mask. She raised an eyebrow. "It's nearly 8. You've been here all day." "I'm fine," I muttered, looking back at the screen. I wasn't fine, but I didn't know what else to say. I couldn't keep talking about it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Rachel stepped into the room, setting the coffee cup on the desk in front of me. "Jake, you can't just keep burying yourself in work. You're better than that." I met her eyes, and for the first time in days I felt a flicker of something real. I felt like maybe she was right, that there had to be more than just this. "I don't know how to stop," I said quietly, my voice strained. "I don't know how to move on from all of this." She sat down across from me. "Moving on doesn't mean forgetting, Jake. It means figuring out how to live again. You don't need them to validate your worth." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't really considered that. But as much as I wanted to believe her, the self-doubt still clawed at me. Who was I now? I wasn't the man I used to be, the man who trusted and loved without hesitation. "I don't know if I can do that," I muttered, rubbing my eyes. "Every time I think I'm moving forward, something pulls me back." Rachel was silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "You need to see yourself for who you really are. Not through their eyes, not through your past. You're not defined by them." I wasn't sure I could hear it, but I nodded anyway, my thoughts already drifting back to the wreckage they'd left behind. The next morning I found myself back at my apartment, going through old photos. Some of them were happy. Me and Lily on trips, laughing with friends, all the little moments that felt like a lifetime ago. I hated myself for holding on to them, but part of me still couldn't let go of the life I thought I had. I had an afternoon meeting with my mom, Nicole. She hadn't been around much lately, but I couldn't ignore the fact that something about this moment felt important. Maybe it was time to talk to her, to hear her side of things. To see if maybe, just maybe, I could find some answers. She was sitting in the same chair I'd seen her in 100 times before, the one by the window that overlooked the street. When she looked up, I could see the concern in her eyes. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft but knowing. "Yeah," I said, but it wasn't the truth. "Not really. I've been working. Trying to keep busy." She nodded, her expression unreadable. "I know it's been hard for you. I know you don't talk about it much." I wasn't ready to talk about the betrayal, not yet. Instead, I just looked at her, wondering where to start. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About what happened with Ethan and Lily. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what it all means." She sighed, the sound heavy with something I couldn't place. "Jake, you've always been the one who worked so hard to keep everything together. You never let anyone see you struggle. But maybe it's time you let yourself feel what you're going through." I couldn't hold back my frustration anymore. "I don't even know who I am anymore, Mom. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all this anger, all this confusion. It's like I'm lost." Nicole leaned forward, her eyes never leaving mine. "You don't need to figure it out all at once, Jake. And you don't have to do it alone. I know you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you have to understand that the family dynamic, it's never been what you thought it was." Her words struck me like a blow. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Ethan, Lily, they've always been a part of this family. But so have you. You've always been the strong one, the one who held things together. But maybe that's been the problem." I stared at her, confusion flooding my mind. "I don't understand. What do you mean?" "You've been carrying the family's burdens for so long, Jake, that you forgot to take care of yourself. And sometimes people take advantage of that. Not out of malice, but because they've always known you'd pick up the pieces." It hit me hard. All those years, all that pressure to be perfect. I hadn't seen it before, but now it was so clear. "I never asked for any of it," I whispered. "I know. But that's why you've got to let go now. You're not defined by them. You don't have to be their support system anymore." Her words left me speechless. I'd been so focused on what I thought I owed to everyone else that I'd forgotten I deserved to be free of this weight. As the days passed, I focused more on my work, pushing myself to grow and rebuild. I found a sense of purpose I hadn't realized I'd lost. But every now and then I'd think of Ethan and Lily and it would hurt. It still did. But now it wasn't the thing that controlled me. Maybe the scars would always be there. But for the first time in weeks, I started to feel like I could move forward. The first thing I felt when I saw the message on my phone was disbelief. I didn't even want to open it, but something made me do it anyway. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the words sink in. Ethan lost his job today. The company found out about the affair. Lily's been quietly let go as well. It didn't hit me all at once. My heart was pounding and I almost couldn't comprehend the words. But there they were. The consequences of their actions playing out in front of me like some twisted karma unfolding. I don't know why I thought it would be any different. It shouldn't have mattered to me. Yet here I was staring at the text, unsure of what to feel. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. I had wanted this. Wanted them to face the music. But now that it was happening, it didn't feel as good as I had imagined. I sat down on the edge of the couch, the weight of the news settling heavily on me. My phone buzzed again. It was Rachel. I heard about Ethan and Lily. You doing okay? I didn't know how to respond to her. I wasn't okay. And part of me still couldn't believe that this was real. I typed back quickly. I don't know. It feels weird. The response came almost immediately. I get it. But this doesn't have to define you. They're paying for what they did. You don't have to be part of that anymore. I put my phone down and rubbed my face. The bitterness in my chest was slowly being replaced by something else. Something less familiar but just as heavy. I was beginning to realize that I didn't need to get revenge. I didn't need to get even. The universe was doing it for me. But even that thought didn't make me feel better. It made me feel emptier, like a hole inside was slowly opening up. The next day I went into work. It was a distraction, but I welcomed it. I tried to bury myself in my tasks, pushing the thoughts of Ethan and Lily out of my mind. But no matter how much I focused on the screen in front of me, there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind that wouldn't go away. My boss, Kevin, came by my desk in the afternoon. He looked at me with his usual casual smile, but I could tell there was something on his mind. You good, Jake? He asked, leaning against the edge of my cubicle. I looked up, trying to mask everything I was feeling. Yeah, just working through some things. Look, he started, I know you've been through a lot lately, but you're one of the strongest guys I know. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I nodded, forcing a smile. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. But as soon as he left, I sat back in my chair, letting out a breath. It wasn't enough. The work, the distractions, it wasn't enough to quiet the storm inside of me. I stared at my phone again. No new messages. No updates. It was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan and Lily's downfall had unfolded, but it was leaving a hollow feeling in its wake. I realized that I didn't want to feel like this anymore. I didn't want to be stuck in the past, tied to people who had betrayed me. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something to make this right. But make it right for who? For me? For them? Or for the person I used to be? I stood up suddenly, my chair scraping against the floor. It was like a switch had flipped inside of me. Maybe it wasn't about revenge. Maybe it wasn't about them at all. It was about me. I stepped outside for some air and found myself walking down the street, not really sure where I was going. My thoughts were clouded and my emotions were in chaos. But I had to keep moving. I had to do something. And then I ran into her. Jake. Sarah's voice pulled me from my thoughts, and I looked up to see her standing in front of me, looking concerned. She was always the one who seemed to know when I was falling apart. Hey, I said, my voice a little rough. What's up? Thought I'd check in on you, she said, stepping closer. I heard about Ethan and Lily. You okay? I looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. I mean, they're getting what they deserve, right? But it doesn't feel like enough. I don't feel better. Sarah studied me for a moment, her eyes softening with understanding. Jake, you're not going to find peace in what happens to them. You're only going to find peace in letting go of what they did to you. You have to stop letting their actions control you. I couldn't argue with her. She was right. It wasn't about what happened to Ethan and Lily anymore. It was about me, about rebuilding my own life. The power to change my future was in my hands, not theirs. I think I'm starting to get that, I said, my voice quiet. I've been so focused on them, on what they did, that I forgot what I need. What I want. She smiled, and there was something comforting in her expression. Exactly. You don't need to hold on to that anger anymore, Jake. You've got your own path now. I took a deep breath, feeling a weight begin to lift. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could see a way forward, one that didn't involve revenge or staying stuck in the past. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, I was ready to find out. I couldn't get comfortable. It was like every part of me was twisted into knots, waiting for something to happen, but not knowing exactly what. The news about Ethan and Lily kept circling in my mind, haunting me like an unanswered question. I kept hearing the whispers from everyone around me. It was all anyone could talk about. How their lives were unraveling, how everything they'd built was falling apart. It wasn't until I got the call that I finally felt like I had to do something. "Jake," Sarah said, her voice tight, "you need to hear this. You won't believe what happened next." "What do you mean?" I asked, already feeling the pit in my stomach deepen. "Lily," she tried to cover it up. She thought she could keep it hidden, but it's all out now. Her reputation at the company, it's shot. Ethan's lost his job and she's been let go too. My mind raced. Ethan, who had always seemed so untouchable, so confident, he was now facing the consequences. And Lily had always seemed like the perfect partner. The woman I thought I knew. "I need to see them," I said, my voice firm. "This ends now." I drove to the apartment I had once shared with Lily, the place now feeling like a ghost of what it had been. When I knocked on the door, there was a long pause before Ethan opened it. His face was haggard, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept in days. There was a sharpness to his movements that I hadn't seen before. His usual confidence was gone. "Jake," he said, almost as if he didn't expect to see me. "We need to talk." I stepped in, not waiting for an invitation. "I think we do." Lily was sitting on the couch, her back straight but her face pale. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. The woman who had once been so full of life, always with that perfect smile, was now a shell of herself. "I don't know what to say," Ethan began, his voice low. "I screwed up, Jake. I know I hurt you." I laughed, though it wasn't a laugh of humor. "You're damn right you did." Lily's voice broke in, her words trembling. "I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant to hurt you, Jake." I turned to face her, but my anger was burning too hot for me to hold it back. "Really? Because it sure looks like you did. You kissed my brother, Lily. You lied to me every damn day. And for what?" Lily flinched but didn't speak. Ethan, on the other hand, seemed to shrink under my gaze. He looked at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. "We were stupid, man," he said. "I never should have crossed that line with her. But the truth is, it wasn't just about you. It was about me too. I was miserable. And so was she. We were both lost and we thought we'd found something." "Something?" I couldn't stop myself from cutting him off. "You ruined everything. You ruined my life." Lily let out a shaky breath, wiping away a tear. "It was a mistake, Jake. A huge mistake. I'm so sorry. But I never wanted to hurt you like this. I thought I could control it." "You thought you could control it?" I repeated, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "You thought you could control an affair with my brother, lie to my face every day and nothing would happen?" Lily looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I thought I could keep it hidden, Jake. I thought I could keep everything in its place. But then, it all fell apart. I lost everything." The irony of it all hit me. They were both reaping what they had sown, but I still wasn't sure how to feel. "I didn't know what I was doing, man," Ethan said, his voice more subdued now. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to lose my brother." "Well, you lost a lot more than that," I said coldly. Ethan's face hardened as he stood up. "Yeah. And I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it." I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to finally have the upper hand. But seeing them like this, broken, regretful, and lost, left me hollow. I wasn't sure what to do with the emotions that flooded me. Part of me still wanted to scream at them to tell them how much they had ruined my life, but another part of me just felt empty. Lily looked at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "Jake, please? I know I can't fix this, but I want you to know I'm sorry. From the bottom of my heart." I didn't respond. The words didn't feel right. Felt like too little, too late. "I just want to move on," I said, the words more for myself than for them. "I can't keep living like this. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, but I'm done. I'm done letting this control me." I turned and walked out of the apartment, the door closing behind me with a quiet finality. The weight of everything they'd done still hung over me, but for the first time I realized something. I didn't need their apology to move on. I didn't need their regret to heal. I needed to take control of my own life. And as I walked away, I knew that was the first step. I stood in front of the door, staring at it for what felt like an eternity. It had been months since I had come here, since I had been in this place where everything fell apart. Ethan and Lily were inside, probably waiting for me to come in and scream at them, demand an explanation, some kind of closure. But I wasn't sure if I could do that anymore. I wasn't sure if I needed to. Taking a deep breath, I finally knocked. The sound echoed through the silence. A few moments passed and then the door opened. Ethan stood there, his face pale, his eyes tired. I could tell he was expecting the worst, but there was something different in his eyes today. Guilt. Regret. It was like he knew this was coming and maybe he was finally ready to face it. "Jake," he said quietly, his voice hoarse. "We need to talk." "I know," I replied. My voice was calm, but there was still that tightness in my chest, that familiar weight. But I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sure what I was, but I wasn't angry. Ethan stepped aside and I walked in, the familiar smell of the apartment hitting me like a punch in the gut. Lily was sitting on the couch, her face drawn and weary. She looked up when I entered but didn't say anything. I could tell she wasn't expecting me to be calm. Neither of them probably expected that. I stood in the middle of the room, not sure what to do with myself. They both watched me, waiting for me to speak. "So," I began, my voice steady, "are we going to pretend this didn't happen? Or do you two want to finally be honest?" Ethan and Lily exchanged a quick glance, and then Ethan spoke. "We've been honest. We've messed up, Jake. I don't know what else you want from us." I shook my head. "It's not about what I want. It's about what you two need to admit. The truth." Lily opened her mouth but then paused. Her eyes were glassy, and I could tell she was struggling with what to say. "I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you," she said quietly, her voice shaking. "I didn't want this either," Ethan added. "But I was lost. And I didn't think about the consequences. I messed up, Jake. I know that now." I felt a sharp pang in my chest, but it wasn't rage anymore. It was something else. Maybe it was just the realization that their regret didn't fix anything. It didn't make what happened go away. "You think saying sorry will fix it?" I asked, my voice flat. "You think your regret is going to make everything okay? Because it's too late for that." Lily's face twisted in pain. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. I loved you. I did." "I know you did," I said, my voice softer now. "But that's not enough anymore. You don't get to hurt people and then expect a free pass just because you feel bad about it." I felt like I was saying the words I had been carrying around for so long. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishing them. It was about facing the truth. And the truth was, nothing they said now was going to change what had already happened. "I'm done," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I'm done pretending that I need closure from you too. I'm done holding on to this anger. I don't need you to fix it. I need you to understand that it's over." Ethan and Lily both stood in silence, their regret hanging in the air between us. Neither of them spoke, and for a moment, it was like we were all suspended in time, caught in this space where words couldn't heal anything. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice raw. "I'm sorry, Jake. I really am. But I understand if you never forgive me. I don't expect that from you." Lily's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I never wanted this. But I understand if you can't look at me the same way. I deserve that." I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't need to say anything. Their regrets weren't my responsibility to carry anymore. I'd spent too long carrying their weight, trying to understand them, trying to fix what was broken. But I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't keep dragging myself through their mess. "I don't need your forgiveness," I said quietly, the words cutting through the silence. "I don't need anything from either of you. I just need to walk away from this." I turned to leave, not looking back. "Jake," Ethan called after me, but I didn't stop. I didn't need to hear anything else. I'd heard enough. I stepped out of the apartment, the door clicking shut behind me. It was done. It was finally done. And for the first time in months, I felt lighter. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. It wasn't the same face I'd seen months ago. The anger, the pain, it had carved itself deep into my features. I didn't recognize myself sometimes. I hadn't even wanted to see the man in the mirror anymore. But here I was, facing him, forcing myself to confront everything that had happened. I was tired. So tired. "Jake." Sarah's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back into the present. She stood at the doorway of the apartment, looking at me with concern. "You've been staring at that mirror for an hour. You okay?" I turned to face her, my heart heavy. "I don't know, Sarah. I don't know if I'm okay. I don't even know who I am anymore." She stepped into the room, her voice soft. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. You've been through hell. You don't have to rush this." "I'm trying," I muttered, shaking my head. "I'm trying to move on, but it's hard. I keep thinking about everything that happened with Ethan and Lily. It feels like it's still holding me down." "I know," she said, stepping closer. "But you can't keep living in the past, Jake. You can't keep letting them control your life. You're better than that." Her words stung, not because they weren't true, but because I wasn't sure I was ready to hear them. I had spent so long being angry, so long looking for a way to make them pay. The idea of letting go felt impossible. I don't know what to do, I whispered. Part of me still wants to make them feel what I felt, to make them regret it. Sarah sat beside me, her presence calming. And part of you knows that revenge won't fix anything, right? I didn't say anything at first. The silence between us felt heavy, but it wasn't uncomfortable. I knew she was right, even though it hurt to admit it. What if I can't forgive them? What if I can't let it go? You don't have to forgive them, Jake, Sarah said softly. You don't have to let them back into your life. But you do have to let go of the anger. You have to free yourself from it. If you keep holding on to it, it's going to consume you. I don't know how, I said quietly. I don't know how to let it go. You start by deciding that you won't let it control you anymore, she said, her voice steady. You choose to move on. You choose to focus on your own growth, your own future. I looked at her, her words sinking in. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that I could move forward, that I could stop being defined by the betrayal. But part of me was still so angry. Do you think I can change? Do you think I can be the person I used to be? I asked, my voice raw. You're already changing, she said, a small smile forming on her lips. You're here, right now, looking at your life and deciding you want more. That's progress. The old you is gone. And the new you is already starting to emerge. I stood up from the couch, pacing the room. It's just so hard. Every time I think I've let go, something comes back, something reminds me of the hurt. I don't know how to get past that. I know, Sarah said. But it's not about forgetting the hurt. It's about not letting it define you anymore. It's about moving forward with purpose, even if it feels slow. I stopped pacing and turned to face her. You're right. I've been holding on to this for too long. I've been letting their actions control how I see myself. It's time I stopped letting them have that power. Sarah smiled, her expression warm. Exactly. I exhaled deeply, feeling a weight lift off my chest, but there was still a part of me that was unsure. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I let go and end up regretting it? Then you'll learn from it, Sarah said. But you can't keep living in the past. You'll always be stuck there if you do. I nodded, but it was hard to shake the doubt. It felt like I was on the edge of something, like one decision could change everything. Maybe it's time I focus on myself, I said, my voice quieter. Maybe it's time I start healing instead of hurting. You're doing it already, she replied, standing up and moving towards me. It's a journey, Jake. And you don't have to take it alone. The words hung in the air between us, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something shift. Maybe I didn't have to make this choice on my own. Maybe I didn't have to carry all the weight of the past anymore. I took a deep breath and turned toward the window, looking out at the city. The sun was beginning to set, casting warm orange and pink hues over everything. It was beautiful, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like there was something more out there for me. I think I'm ready, I said softly. To move on. You're stronger than you think, Jake, Sarah said, her voice full of certainty. And I know you'll find your way. I nodded, the weight in my chest feeling a little lighter. It wasn't going to be easy. I wasn't sure how long it would take. But I knew for the first time I was ready to focus on myself. To rebuild my life, not around revenge or regret, but around who I wanted to be. And that felt like the first step. I hadn't realized how much weight I was carrying until it all started to lift. For months, I'd been dragging the past around with me like a chain I couldn't escape. Ethan, Lily, the betrayal, the lies. But one night, something clicked and it felt like I finally exhaled. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Jake. Sarah's voice interrupted my thoughts as I sat on the couch, staring out the window. You okay? I looked up at her, meeting her gaze. There was a softness in her eyes, a warmth that felt different now, not filled with pity or worry, but something else. Something real. I'm okay, I said quietly, a slight smile tugging at the corner of my lips. I think I'm more than okay. She raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. What do you mean? I leaned back, folding my arms behind my head, letting the weight of my past decisions fall off my shoulders. I've made peace with it. With everything. With them. With myself. Wow, she said, the smile on her face showing that she didn't fully believe me, but she was happy to hear it. That's progress. It is, I agreed, feeling the truth of my words settle deep within me. I don't have to carry it around anymore, Sarah. The anger, the betrayal, it's not mine to hold anymore. She nodded, leaning against the back of the couch, her arms crossed, her face soft. You've come a long way, Jake. I'm proud of you. I smiled, but it wasn't the fake smile I used to give her. It was real. It felt like a weight had been lifted, like I was finally able to stand tall without being burdened by the past. The next few days were full of small steps, each one feeling like a victory. I spent more time with my friends, catching up with people I had neglected during the mess with Ethan and Lily. I had let those relationships fade because I had been so consumed by anger and hurt. But now, it felt like I was reconnecting with a version of myself I had long forgotten. Rachel was one of the first to reach out after everything had settled. She invited me to grab a drink just like old times. "You sure you're up for this?" she asked as I met her at the bar, my smile genuine. "After everything?" "Yeah," I replied, shrugging my shoulders. "I'm done looking back. I think I'm ready to just enjoy life again." Her eyes softened and she gave me a small smile. "I'm really glad to hear that. You deserve it." We spent the evening talking about anything and everything. Or old memories, new goals. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could be Jake again, not the guy I had been trapped in for months. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, reflecting on everything I'd been through. I thought about how far I'd come, how much I had grown. I had been so consumed by the past, holding on to grudges and pain, but now I realized that none of that was worth keeping anymore. I picked up my phone, scrolling through the contacts. There were so many people I hadn't spoken to in months, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of rejection or confrontation. I was ready to move forward. I dialed Nicole's number. "Jake." My mother's voice was warm and surprised. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, Mom," I said, my voice calm, more at peace than it had been in ages. "I just wanted to check in. I've been thinking a lot about things and I think I'm ready to start over. With everything." There was a pause on the other end and then she sighed softly. "I'm proud of you, Jake. I know it hasn't been easy." "No, it hasn't," I said, sitting back in my chair. "But I'm finally letting go of all that weight. I've realized that it's not worth carrying anymore." "I'm glad to hear that. I've always wanted you to be happy, Jake. And you deserve that." Was funny. I used to think I was strong for holding on to everything, but now I saw the truth. Strength wasn't about holding on. It was about knowing when to let go. I walked into my favorite cafe the next morning, the one I used to go to every weekend. The barista, a young woman with a bright smile, greeted me like I had never left. "Jake. Long time no see," she said as she handed me my coffee. I smiled back, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. "Yeah, I've been a little preoccupied." "Well, it's good to have you back," she said, her smile wide and genuine. I sat down at a window table, sipping my coffee slowly. For the first time, I wasn't rushing to get anywhere or escape anything. I was just here. And that felt good. As I looked out the window, watching the world go by, I realized that life was full of second chances. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing something I couldn't have. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just living, and it felt like freedom. I had let go of the past and I was finally ready to live for me. I never imagined it would feel like this, like a weight lifting off my chest without me having to do anything about it. 4 months, I'd been so consumed by the idea of revenge, of making Ethan and Lily pay for what they did, that I never stopped to think about what I really wanted. And now, as I stood at the edge of it all, I realized something. Justice wasn't about what I could do to them. It was about what I could do for myself. I'd spent so much of my time holding on to anger, making it the center of everything. I let it define me. But in the end, it wasn't the anger that would set me free. It was letting go of it. And that realization hit me hard as I sat in the coffee shop, staring out the window at the world moving on without me. "Jake." Sarah's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She was sitting across from me, looking at me with those eyes that had seen me through my worst. "Are you okay?" I nodded slowly, the words finally coming together in my head. "Yeah. I think I finally understand." She tilted her head, waiting for me to elaborate. I could tell she wasn't going to let me off the hook without explaining. "I was so focused on them," I said, gesturing vaguely toward the window, "on what they did to me, on the revenge I wanted. I thought that was what would make me feel better. But all it did was keep me stuck. It kept me trapped in the past." Sarah didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, giving me the space to let the words sink in. "And now?" she asked gently. "I'm done with it," I said, my voice firmer now. "I've let it go. All of it. The anger. The hurt. I don't need them to pay for what they did. I don't need revenge. I just need to move forward." She smiled softly, a warmth in her eyes. "That's a huge step, Jake." "I never thought it would feel like this," I said, leaning back in my chair, finally feeling the freedom in my chest. "I've been fighting for so long, trying to figure out how to make them regret it. But now I see. The only way to win is to stop fighting. The weight in my chest felt lighter with every word, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to look back. I wasn't defined by what had happened to me anymore. Later that day I made a decision. It wasn't one I'd thought I would make, but it was the right one. I dialed the number I had avoided for weeks. Jake. Nicole's voice was cautious, as if unsure what to expect from this call. Everything okay? I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. Yeah, Mom. I think it's time to talk. About everything. We agreed to meet later that evening, and when I arrived at her house, I felt a sense of nervousness creeping in. But as I walked into her living room, I knew it was right. I'd spent so much time avoiding the conversation, but it was time to face the truth. Nicole looked at me, her face full of concern. Jake, if this is about what happened with Ethan and Lily... It's not about that, I interrupted, sitting down across from her. It's about me. About what I've been carrying all this time. About how I've let everything that happened control my life. Nicole was quiet for a moment, and then she nodded, her eyes softening. I've always known you were stronger than you think. I just didn't realize how much you were carrying on your own. I've been so angry, I admitted, the words coming out raw. And I thought that if I made them regret it, if I punished them, it would make me feel better. But now I know that it wasn't about that at all. I needed to let go. Nicole smiled, a sad but knowing smile. I'm proud of you, Jake. It's not easy to let go. But I think you're finally seeing what really matters. Yeah, I said, my voice quieter now. I think I am. That night, I found myself standing outside looking at the city skyline. There was something calming about the quiet, something peaceful about the way everything just moved on, no matter what had happened in my past. I thought about Ethan and Lily. I thought about how they had hurt me. But more than that, I thought about how they were still facing the consequences of their actions. Karma had a way of working things out on its own, and I didn't need to be the one to make them feel the pain they had caused me. They were already paying for it in their own way. I didn't need to seek revenge. I didn't need to tear them down to build myself up. I realized now that I could rise above it all, not by fighting but by forgiving. Not by holding on to anger but by letting go of it. For the first time, I felt like I was in control of my own life. It wasn't about what had happened. It wasn't about the past. It was about what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And in that moment, standing in the quiet of the night, I felt the peace I had been searching for. It wasn't in revenge. It was in the power of letting go.